Greetings and salutations, everyone. I'm going to tell you why you might want these copper expanding hollow points over a typical hollow point or over FMJ. Give you real data from one of the top subject matter experts, as well as what the Czech police use, and going through barriers, including through ribs put in an organic gel, not clear ballistics, through a door first, through a windshield first, against a spinning car tire, and all of that, like legitimately, and through a metal trash can. Okay, so which of these perform the best? I'm going to give you data on these two compared to, like, let's say a junkier hollow point, not necessarily HST or an FMJ, which this is one of the better, much better FMJs in the world for actual fighting purposes. So let's get into it. Why XRG might be an excellent choice for carry in 380 and 9mm. This 9mm I just fired out of comp guns. I just ordered one box because I'm like, you know what? I bet this is very low recoil, highly efficient, high velocity out of comp pistols. Speaking of which, why is it so hidden? Please, please, please go comment, like, still go comment on Sage Dynamics Personal, as in I bought it from them, one of a kind FN509C comped video. Please go check that out. I got that thinking it would do big views because Sage Dynamics, Aaron Cowan, is a huge red dot instructor, had a white paper for law enforcement in like 2013. I watched and learned a lot from his videos before I went through a Guess Who SWAT school with a dot. Just started carrying with dots the last year. And this XRG ammo, definitely promising and fairly low budget for what it is. And these are 25 round boxes. Guys, so I'm going to give you a lot of data. And while all you FMJ guys are wrong, but out of FMJ, this is actually one of the best fighting FMJs there are. But it's nothing like a good expanding hollow point as far as barrier penetration and whatnot, because SMB happens to be some of the hottest, especially 115 on the market. And it's very thick jacket, very thick jacket. That's not like a coated jacket like Blazer or whatever. Okay, so are they better than expanding through ribs? Yes, it looks like they're better at expanding through ribs. What do I mean? Like Gunzam, going through a pectoral muscle first gives you enough tissue, hydraulic reaction to expand the hollow point that are velocity driven before hitting bone. However, you have a very good chance of like a somewhat side lateral shot. Watch bad guys shoot with the right leg forward like this, going through a rib first with only a little bit of tissue first. A top hollow point like an HST or a punch or a plus P gold dot probably doesn't have an issue. However, cheaper hollow points very well plug with bone, with sim bone. Look at Brass Fetcher, who used to work for SIG handgun, SIG Sauer. Brass Fetcher data that the copper bullets, I'm particularly talking XRG and 380 and 9mm, and I'm talking Tac-XP, XPD, or the old DPX, not current, in multiple calibers, expanding through bone first, as well as also expanding after going through plywood and wallboard. Looking at all that data, they still meet full expansion after going through plywood and wallboard. Should your first 5 in your carry gun, and I think I might switch at least comp guns to, and maybe all of them, with copper JHP. Yeah, because they're more likely to expand through ribs. Bigger expansion, bigger wound cavity, more likely for civilian, however, a little shy on the penetration side. But yet, this XRG round is what the Czech police use, and their 3.75 inch PCRs, their 4 inch P10Cs up to their 4.5, even 5 inch G17s with threaded and P09s and stuff that they use, okay? So it is a Czech police load. They're better for comp guns, probably, like legitimately. I think I can rattle fast 5 off and have like no recoil. So for recoil sensitive, a very good idea. It looks like they're good between expansion and penetration. 380 is a hard pill, depending on short barrel versus long barrel, admittedly. And the 9mm, I think you're good to go 3.5 inch or longer. You're getting a little light on penetration. We'll get to that in less than 3.5 inch barrels. But if it's a recoil sensitive person, wife, whatever, it may be worth the trade-off, because it's still going to perform well until you get to a right lead, big guy type penetration depths required. Look at my Does Your Caliber Pass the Bone Test video for that, and No FMJ, You Dumb Fuds video for that. Please like, subscribe, always comment on all 2A channels, especially mine. That'd be great. And please look at the FN Sage Dynamics video. That's crazy how hidden it's been. Okay, Dr. Gary Roberts, DrGkr, he is a known subject matter expert. Tac-XP is on all his approved lists for a 38 special 9mm 40-45. Even though they're light for caliber. I was never a light for caliber guy. I've always been a 124 plus P. Tons of those 9mm loads work good, especially talking 3.5 or longer barrels. And I'm a 124 plus P HST guy, unless you're working armed security or at law enforcement. And then a extra spicy 124 P plus P Gold Dot, one of the best rounds ever. Also one of the best rounds ever, even though I don't have a 10mm, was the old Underwood Gold Dot 165 grain. Pushed really fast because gold dots can hold together pretty well and become meteorites. Also, lower carry weight might be a thing for some of my 40s. Even if I just put the first 5-6 rounds as a copper round, just to have lower grain weight than like the 180 HSTs I usually do, might mean I could carry them a little more comfortably in the wintertime. So low carry weight for if you have hip back issues or SHTF. Better through bone. It's still expanding after going through bone, door, wood, plywood, wallboard, and still expanding. We're going to look at real data through all the barriers I talked about, so stay tuned. Start a little bit with the Barnes Tac-XP because I never liked light for caliber, and I'm looking at velocity, and copper's less weight, so it takes up more case capacity. However, it's also efficient in shorter barrels. You lose less velocity going from a 4.5 inch to even a 3.1 inch or something than you do with like a typical jacketed hollow point. So keep that in mind. Dr. Gary Roberts, who was, Fackler's protege, if you will, he even approved the 38 grain, 110 grain Corbon DPX, it looks like. Corbon used to load the Tac-XP Barnes bullet. Then Barnes now themselves sell, Black Hills themselves do. Use the Barnes bullet, Tac-XP, XPD. Corbon used to call it the DPX. Now Corbon, I believe, is making their own. So some is good, some is not. Corbon QC. Gun Sam's had a lot of issues with Corbon having dead primers, or the seating depth is wrong. So going bang is number 1 priority over terminal ballistics. So another reason to use hollow points and not lower quality FMJ. Okay, 9mm, 115 grain, and he even approved on one list 105 grain, which tells me these XRG, even though I worry about only being 100 grain, probably good to go. And now that I know the Czech police do, I just found that it's out today. I found a great video. I'm going to give you all the data. So he had, and this is the old Corbon load, the 38 load through 4-layer denim, harder IWB standard than the 4-layer heavy clothing. And we're talking organic gel, real experts, not clear ballistics BS. 12.4 inches, 52 expansion. The Barnes doesn't load it as good, and their test is from a 4-inch barrel, so please keep that in mind. 9mm, 115 grain plus P, the old Corbon load, at a whopping 1229 feet per second from a G19. Corbon used to be real hot stuff. 15.1 inches, 54 expansion through 4-layer denim. That's pretty awesome. Barnes, he tested lower at 1,069 feet per second, so I would always get the plus P, 115 plus P, 14 inches, 52 expansion. Is that better than an HST? No, it's not as big expansion as an HST. It's kind of on par with Gold Dot and other stuff. But if it's more likely to expand through bone and it has good barrier penetration, your first 5 rounds out might want to be it, or you might just want it if it happens to be a lower grain weight, less recoil, better hit probability where it matters, the spine and the heart, CNS, upper CNS, all that matters. 140 grain and 155 grain. He even approved the 140, and that got 11.5 through 4-layer denim and 64 expansion, the old Corbon. A little more in plain gel. Barnes went 14.5 and 0.61. So I'm going to get you why the XRG is low cost. This stuff's expensive. We're going to get to that. But it's important to talk about the subject matter expert real data first, and before I give you some of this data coming from the Czech Republic. 155 grain 40. Yeah, kicking butt, man. From Barnes, this is Barnes data, so keep that in mind. 14.6 penetration to heavy clothing, not denim. Heavy clothing, 0.74 expansion. Real good stuff. They got 11.4 with their 140 grain, 73 to 78. That's probably enough. I've always said 10.5 is probably enough for typical civilian defensive gun use. Do I want 13? Yeah, because if it's a bigger guy or he's right lead or left 90 degrees, if he's right lead 45, you need more penetration. Please look at my desert caliber past the bone test. 185 grain, particularly plus P, old Corbon super hot, did really, really good. You can screenshot the data. Okay, it's still, I think, one of the better choices. If you go shorter than a Glock 30, if you go shorter than a 3.8 inch 45, it's really not recommended. But if you did a 185 plus P Barnes or Black Hills loaded with the Tac-XP or XPD or whatever they're calling it, copper expanding 185 plus P is probably a really, really good idea. Barnes themselves at a slow feet per second, say 11 inches, 0.78. Gary Roberts did test Barnes as well, 12.5 and 0.64 at only 8-10 feet per second. So he still got great expansion and enough penetration, even from a low 8-10 feet per second. People didn't always list their barrel lengths they were testing from, so pick accordingly, knowing your barrel length. The 380 Tac-XP is a no. Even Barnes themselves, 8 inches of under penetration. 8 inches is not enough. So what's enough in 380 is still a big debate. I'm waiting on Gun Sam to test 4 loads I sent him in 380. And long barrel is maybe different than short barrel, if it expands or not. And stuff that did good in 4-layer, even in official data, didn't do good. Like my punch underpenetrated when Gun Sam did 2-layer. So I'm trying to get Gun Sam to do 2-layer. It's clear ballistics, but plus the MDF makes it a lot better that I would maybe trust it than just a tools weatherman with only clear ballistics. Okay, clear ballistics over exaggerates penetration because it's 17 to 25% less dense and has no water to compress. Let's look at price because I know that's important to you guys, and let's get to the XRG being a good buy in at least 380 and 9mm. 9mm for sure. Czech Police uses it, and 380 is a maybe, but looks pretty damn good. 9 BPLE, you can get from 40 to 48 cents per round now if you buy a 1,000 round case. 9mm HST, 57 to 60. I still love my 124 plus HSTs. I might load 5 of these first, and then my 124 plus BHSTs. Keep that in mind. Or duty use, I might load 3 to 5 of the more expensive copper expanders, and then heavier, getting a couple more inches of penetration if there's even more cover involved. Okay, I know it's controversial, but there it is. But it all is going to be almost good enough penetration of it. 9mm XRG, 47 to 51. I picked this up pretty cheap, and it wasn't the cheapest just the other day to order from one of the places I like with palm trees, you know, warm weather places I like. But you can find it even cheaper. It might be worth picking up a case. All you guys are going to drive up the price probably. 9mm Tac-XP is $1 to $1.20 a round right now. And keep in mind, the Corbon DPX stuff isn't really the Barnes bullet anymore, as best as I can tell. And they have quality control issues off and on throughout their history. Okay, keep that in mind. Gun Sam's had a lot of issues, so Barnes or Black Hills, if you want that Barnes Tac-XP 115 plus P, 155 grain 40, or 185 plus P 45, good to go. Am I saying it's better than HST? No. Am I saying it's better than a lot of hollow points? Yes, as I'm saying there is data by Brass Fetcher and another YouTuber that does the pack T testing. He's done barrier testing where he uses like Gun Sam, like a wood board with some stuff on the end to make it similar density to bone. And so something with only a little skin, and I would recommend Gun Sam do a vinyl, just like I did in my Modern Meat Target. Look at my ballistics playlist, vinyl in front of the MDF to simulate bone. All right, the XRG data, 3-layer organic gel. The 115 grain FMJ, keep in mind it's hotter than most and a very thick jacket, so better than most. Definitely not like a plated blazer brass or something. FMJ, 3-layer organic gel, 49 centimeters, 19.3 inches of penetration. Like no wound channel. FMJ sucks. A cheap SMB JHP 115, no, it's not the best. Did 13.4 inches of penetration for 34 centimeters. And moderate expansion of my eyeball will only look like 0.48. Remember, you want at least 0.53, and 0.68 is better. XRG, 30 centimeters, only 11.8. So some of you are going to say that's a failure by FBI standards. But 11.8 is going to be good enough for you in almost all circumstances, unless you're being stuck by a sumo. And maybe you want the 5 and then back it up with heavier stuff just in case. But it's going to expand short neck, expand through bone, and get really big, and maybe better stopper in typical frontal shots. 3-layer organic gel with ribs that unfortunately kind of did an angle approximately 2 to 3.5, 4 inches in. 2 inches would have been better. But FMJ, 17.7 inches. JHP, 30 centimeter, 11.8 inches. Keep in mind, kind of junky JHP. HST or gold dot's going to be better, especially at plus P velocities. Even punch is amazing budget buy. XRG, 29 centimeters, 11.4. That's organic, not clear ballistics. 3 layers of good clothing, not just t-shirt. Actually, it was like heavy clothing basically, and lighter. 11.4 inches and still getting expansion. Now through a door and 3-layer organic gel and the ribs in, FMJ 19.3 inches, jacketed hollow point 11.8 inches, 115 grain, XRG 100 grain, or HS it's called in homogeneous service load, because it's all homogeneous, all made of copper. 11 inches with some expansion. So notice that through the door and the clothing and ribs, the XRG, the copper hollow point, still expanded. So that's why you might want copper expanding hollow points. Don't talk to me about screwdrivers unless you're talking 32 or 380. If you're talking any service caliber, don't talk to me about screwdrivers, you idiots. There's a whole video on that. Okay, unless it's a backup magazine with plus P for super barrier penetration and cocaine mirrors, okay? Empty metal trash can, FMJ, 19.3. This FMJ, much better FMJ than typical crappy, slow, lightly plated FMJ. It's a very hard, thick jacket on SMB. 19.3. Jacketed hollow point, 10.6. XRG, 13.38. XRG still did great through a metal can, okay? Better than the typical JHP. 45-degree angled windshield, FMJ, 13.8. Jacketed hollow point, totally frag, underpenetrated, 9.5. XRG, 13.8. That's same as the FMJ. I don't think it expanded, but there's always a possibility in a real organic creature of having more density and different tissue and still expanding. Versus spinning tire, FMJ, slow leak. The first one did nothing. The second one, 30-second leak. JHP, totally fragged, crappy, 1 minute slower than the FMJ. The XRG, bigger hole, probably expanded through the rubber just from the air pressure, and it cracked the rim, and it was a much faster leak. Car door, hard to penetrate. 6 FMJ, he stopped. Look at Tools and Target. Sorry, my buddy Trigger Bar Philosopher, who doesn't realize I still comment. I'm hidden on his channel. Trigger Bar, come on. He's like, oh, nothing penetrated. He did 9 from a sub and all kinds of things because he was shooting too low at the cross member. So did one of my subscribers, used HST. He shot too low into the cross member, typical in the doors, and all doors are different, and truck doors are by far harder than a small automobile doors to penetrate through. You aim through the windshield or no more than 6 inches down from the top is what I'm going to recommend. At this time, should you find yourself in a real legal defensive gun use like one of my subscribers did, you don't aim to the middle of the door. The cross members, whether it's like this, and I-beams, or whatever, it's going to be way too strong. Any of you auto mechanics chiming down below. Yeah, so XRG, cheap, performing, real good in that 9mm. Okay, and this tells me, and the Dr. Gary Roberts, and even kind of approving this weird Fiocchi 105 grain load, I think it was, or maybe a DPX load, tells me even the low grain weight and the Czech Republic using it. Now, they're not as fat as Americans and illegals. They're not eating as many tacos and stuff. I love tacos, but they're not as big, so keep that in mind. So, but lower recoil is needed. You're going to have better hit probability, most people. Can I use 124 plus P HST? Yeah. And a duty pistol like P30L, can I use plus P plus? Yeah, because HK don't give a F. However, through comps, I think it's something very worthwhile looking into. I don't see downfalls in comps that I do in ported. I do not like ported, shit in your eyes mostly, but also lower velocity and all that. Comps, I now got 3 comp pistols. Another review is going to be coming out. Please go to the 509C comp video, Sage Dynamics, all that. This stuff looks really, really promising. And now that I know Check Police, and I got all of this data, a guy, a YouTuber did, a trainer guy, but like a real good video. So look up his video in the Czech Republic and all that. And also look at the study by Brass Fetcher about copper expanders through Simbone. And sorry, I'm trying to look for the other YouTubers' names to plug. Another guy who does the PAC-T testing, so look up PAC-T testing when he does the barrier testing. And hopefully Gunsam will use my idea and test some copper expanders versus typical JHPs. Do they still expand if basically just skin and then hit bone first? Okay, do they still expand? And even through the plywood and the drywall, all the Barnes data on their site still expanded through drywall and the board. So that's amazing. So please thumbs up, share, subscribe. Look at my Paul Harrell tribute playlist, my ballistics playlist. Please always comment. Please let me know what you think about this. I usually don't like light for caliber stuff, but if it's copper, I might make an exception now. And I thought you might want to know that information so you can make your choices accordingly. And I think it looks promising in 380, even the XRG and the DPX stuff is, or the XPD plus stuff is great. It's just